Hello and welcome to another Lumbridge Night guide for free-to-play old school RuneScape. This guide is my Moneymaker 2.0, so keep watching if you want to make bank in OSRS. In this guide I'm going to go through two primary methods of money making, and just to be clear up front, the methods described here can be used by any account but will probably benefit soloists or Ironmen the most, and those with access to the GE will have significantly more options when it comes to money making in general. And the core skills you need for the first one are as followed. You're going to need to get to 16 crafting, 20 smithing, and 20 mining. There's a few other skills I'm going to go through when we reach the relevant parts, but straight on the back of that, to help you out in getting those skills quickly, I'm going to go straight into useful quests as I normally do. The first thing we're going to look at is crafting. There's 3 quests on offer here. These are the Sheep Shearer quest for 150 XP, the Goblin Diplomacy quest for 200 XP, and the Misthalin Mystery for 600 XP, giving you a total of 950 crafting XP, getting you from level 1 to 8 in one foul swoop, or 3 in this case. Next, we're going to look at mining, and there's only one quest in free-to-play that's useful for mining, and that is Doric's quest. This gets you 1300 XP, and gets you from mining levels 1 to 10. It will probably get you a little bit higher because if you're going to mine the ore yourself, you're going to have to do a bit of leveling in order to mine the iron ore, so you may be a couple of levels higher than that. Next up, smithing. And this is a really good quest, the Knight's Sword. Completing the Knight's Sword will get you 12,725 smithing XP, getting you from level 1 to 29 smithing in one shot. The caveat with the Knight's Sword is it's quite a bit more dangerous than the other quests. There is a dangerous area where you get the blue right from, and the quest potentially has a few more skill requirements, particularly if you're an Ironman. Non-Irons, you can get around this by buying the items from the GE. And finally, when it comes to quests, you can obviously complete the X marks the spot quest as well for a 300 XP lamp, which you can then use on any skill you like. Quest guides for all of the previous quests should have been popping up on the screen, and links will be in the description. If you followed these guides as I've advised, you should be around level 8 crafting, level 29 smithing, and level 10 mining. At this point then, there's a couple more steps to do in order to be ready for phase 1 of the Moneymaker. The first of which is to go to the nearest mine and just get full inventories of either tin or copper. Each time you fill your inventory, simply drop the ore on the floor and just continue to mine until you get to level 20. Once we've got 20 mining, the next thing to do is get our crafting from level 8 to level 16. How you do this is actually up to you, but I recommend getting cowhides from the cows, probably in the field in Lumbridge, since they are pretty plentiful. If you're not Ironman, you can probably do this by simply picking up the cowhides that other people drop, and do this without fighting cows. Otherwise, kill cows and harvest their hides. When you have a full inventory, head through the gate into Alcarid. This will cost you 10 gold unless you have completed the Prince Ali Rescue quest, a guide to which will be popping up on the screen now for those who want to avoid the toll. Don't worry though, because once we hit 16 crafting, we won't be going back and forth through this gate. So anyway, kill cows, harvest cowhides, and bank them in the bank in Alcarid. To give you an idea of how many you're going to need to get from 8 to 16, I have calculated you will need 85 cowhides, which you can then tan at the tannery. It's like next to the forge in Alcarid. Each piece of leather costs 1 coin to tan, so you'll need 85 coins to do that. You'll also need a needle and some thread, which you can get from the crafting shop in Alcarid. Then simply craft the leather items you need. FYI, VAMs are very useful for Ironmen because this is the only way you can get the VAMs, by crafting them yourself in free-to-play. Once you've completed all this, you will finally be ready for step 1, mining silver and crafting silver symbols. This method is not the most cost effective, but we need to level our crafting, and therefore it's the best probably coins per hour we're going to get at our current level. So I'm going to give you some targets. If you're already above or have got these targets, please jump on to the next step. If you're working your way through the guide and following along, then there are 3 key targets. Key target 1 is 34 crafting. This is to allow us to make ruby rings. We're going to need 40 smithing to allow us to smith gold bars, and we're going to need 40 mining to allow us to mine gold. These are the targets for this section. Once we have them, or as I said, if you've already got them, move on to the next section. Key thing to remember throughout this guide is to always keep gems just bank them, stash them for later. They are paramount to one of the later methods and are really useful for generating some extra cash. The first thing you should do here is ensure that you've got a good pickaxe. Steel is an absolute minimum, but since you've gone to the effort of getting 20 mining, I recommend getting a mithril one. You'll also want to buy yourself a silver mold from the craft shop. This is the same place where we got the needle and thread earlier. And then head to Alkharid Mine. There are 5 silver veins on offer, so you want to go around, mine all 5, and then perform a world hop, do the same again, and rinse and repeat. Each time you get a full inventory, head back to Alkharid Main, and for me, when I pass the furnace, I like to smelt the ore into bars at that point before banking the silver bars. Then head back to the mine and repeat. In total, we're looking for 819 silver bars. Using the world hopping method as described, I was able to get a maximum of about 218 silver ores per hour, which means we should hit our crafting and mining target within about 4 hours. Now there's a slight issue here that 819 silver symbols will not get us to 40 smithing, it will get us to 35. So at this point you've got a choice to make. You can mine a further 1020 silver ores and smelt them to get from level 35 to 40. This is obviously going to take double the amount of time. I would recommend that you simply smith 187 steel scimitars, which will require 748 iron and 347 coal. How you do this is up to you, but we need that 40 smithing. Once we've hit those targets, we've got our silver bars in the bank, head to Edgeville and craft the silver bars into unstrung silver symbols using our mold. The reason you want to pick Edgeville is because, as you can see, it's the closest furnace to a bank. Once we've done this, Ironmen, you're going to have to sell your silver symbols at the general stores, world hop or move to a different city and sell 5 or 10 just to try and max out your coinage. Equally, if you're not an Ironman, you can just plug all these on the GE. You'll obviously have to wait for them to sell, but all in all, you should be able to average out at around 13k coins per hour. So for an interim method, it's not bad going. Now we've hit the stats and sold our silver, we're going to move on to the next method, which is kind of more of the same. However, we're going to be mining gold and crafting gold jewelry. Please like the video and support my content. Thank you, Noble Knight. Having crafted our 819 silver symbols, we should be at crafting level about 41, which will allow us to enter the crafting guild, which is arguably the best place to mine gold in free-to-play, the alternative being Rimington Mine. At Rimington Mine, there are 2 gold ore veins. You can utilise a similar world hopping method that we used earlier with the silver mining in Alkharid. Each time you get a full inventory, use the deposit box in Port Sarim. Alternatively, if you've completed the Corsair Curse quest, there's a link to that quest coming up on the screen. Now, you can head there on the boat and use the bank there once you've completed the quest. Speed-wise, it's the same difference, but it's a lot faster than Alkharid. The other option is to use the Crafting Guild, where there are 6 gold ores, so it will be much faster, and again, you can use the deposit box, or you can use the bank at Corsair Cove. Just remember, you need to buy a brown apron. You can get one from the clothes shop in Varrock. In terms of the bank or deposit box running speeds, you can see a quick metric on the screen there of the runs that I did just to prove which one's the fastest. At first glance, it actually looks a little bit like Rimington is faster than the Crafting Guild. However, due to the number of world hops you're going to have to do, I still think that overall the Crafting Guild will be faster, because while the transition between the bank or the deposit box is slightly longer, you'll do far fewer world hops, so you'll cut down on the delay times there. Just as a little bonus, if anyone's training their magic and wants to increase the amount of gold that they've got, they can use telekinetic grab in the basement of the Varrock West Bank to telegrab 1 gold ore, 1 gold bar and a gold necklace. They can then world hop and do this again. So as long as you've got plenty of runes, you can add a decent amount of gold and train your magic at the same time. And how long you do this really is up to you. How much money do you want is how long you want to mine the gold for. So once you're happy you've got enough ore, head back to Edgeville, and this time we're going to be smelting the ore into bars first, and then crafting the gold bars into whatever jewellery you want. Key point, do not make anything with your rubies. You can make jewellery versions of any of the other gems, sapphires, emeralds, etc. Prioritize necklace versions, and then use the remaining gold bars to turn them into gold necklaces. This time, instead of selling them at the general stores, we're going to head to Grum's Gold Exchange in Port Sarim. Here, we can sell the jewellery we've made at a much higher profit. So as before, you want to be checking the stock quantity in the shop currently. If there's a lot of stock of the item you're going to sell, world hop to another world and try to find a world with very low stock, because the price you get is higher the less stock there is. Once you find worlds with low enough stock, sell around 5 to 10 of each of the gold necklaces. Be a bit more sparing, a bit more reserved with your gem based jewelry. This should have upped your coins per hour to 39k per hour, so more than double what we were getting with silver symbols. I want to add in another note at this point. This figure is the coins per hour that you can get from just gold necklaces. If you have enough gems, this figure can be significantly higher, as you can see on the screen now. And that's really all there is to Method A. Following on from this, I'm going to go into Method B. Method B is a lot more combat focused. You are going to require combat skills in order to do this. So again, if you're a skiller or you're not high combat level and don't want to be, jump from this method to the next method, because this is all going to be combat based. I'm of course going to be talking about farming the ogresses. In order to farm the ogresses, I recommend range or magic, and I would recommend a range level of 50 or a magic level of 50 as well. If you really want to, you can do it with melee, but you'll probably need a bit more food because you can't use the safe spots. For all three combat types, I have guides on my channel. I'll put links on the screen in sequence and obviously in the description as well. My final piece of advice that fits in with the magic side is that high level alchemy is by far the best way to make the most money from the ogresses. So I actually recommend a magic level of 55, or a magic level of 21 for low level alchemy is acceptable, but in my view it's a bit of a waste, so you're probably better off banking any drops and high alching them later. The final thing to keep in mind for this method is that you will need to have completed, or at least started, the Corsair Curse quest. You can access the area if you've just started the quest, but you can't use the bank, so I really recommend finishing the quest. Head down the hole into the Ogress lair, utilise the safe spots you can see on the screen, and either range or magic the Ogresses until they are dead. Don't attack the shamans by accident, only attack the Ogress warriors, and how you make money with the Ogresses is from their drops. These girls have a high-ish rate of rune drops, which when you high alch or even low alch can make some good coin. They also drop a good amount of gems, which we can slot back into Method A, so if we alternate between Method A and B, we can keep making money. So we can hoard the gems and then make gold jewellery and sell that for a profit later as well. All round, the Ogresses are a really good way to make some money. How much money can you make? When I trialed it, using low level alchemy, you can expect to get between 36 and 37k coins per hour. Alternatively, if you're using high alch, you can get rates up to 55k coins per hour, which isn't a bad rate at all, and it's also a rate that we can boost if we account for the method I'm about to go through, as well as following the steps from Method A and turning the gems that the Ogresses have dropped into gold jewellery. As with all my videos, I like to bring a little bit of something, a little bit of a bonus at the end. There's quite a few people in the comments who recommended this method, so a shout out goes to them. If I can find your name in the comments, I will put you up on the screen now or in the description. And the reason I've put this at the end is because both of the previous methods can be utilised to feed into this final method, because as you probably got from the start of the video, this method is all about how you use your rubies. Generally speaking, I've put this at the end because if you're an Iron Man, you won't be able to get a vast amount of rubies. You'll have to farm them all yourself. Non-Iron Men, you can probably buy rubies from the Grand Exchange. Yes, it will definitely still make money from this method, but it will lower the number of coins you make per hour. So what is this mystical method? Well, the first step is to go back to Edgeville and craft as many ruby rings as you can. Use all of your rubies. If you then have the magic level and the runes, enchant them to make them into rings of forging. Anyone who's low level who can't do this themselves, head to the Grand Exchange. There's a guy called Murky Matt, and he charges 250 coins to enchant the ring for you. Once we have our enchanted rings, we then need to head to the nearest mine to mine some iron. I would recommend the mine at Rimington, and just use the deposit box, or if we are level 60 mining, use the mining guild in Falador. Wherever you mine, it doesn't really matter, just work out how much iron you need by the number of rings of forging you have. Each ring has 140 charges, so it's 140 times the number of rings of forging you have. Once you've figured that out, go mine your iron. When you've got that, head back to guess where, your favourite place? You guessed it, Edgeville, and start smithing your iron bars. Once you've smithed all the iron bars and used all of your rings of forging, head to the west bank in Varrock and then head south and smith your iron bars into iron bodies. You then want to head to Horvik's armor shop and sell the iron bodies. Again, check the stock levels, only sell 5 to 10 at a time, world hop to another world, and keep doing this until you've sold all of your bodies. So how has this made you extra money? Well, each ruby ring you could have sold to Grum for 1,417 coins, assuming you got the best price. And once it's a ring of forging, each one of those rings can make approximately 28 iron bodies. Well, 28 iron bodies sold to Horvik for 336 coins generates you 9,408 coins. So for each ring, instead of making say 1,500, you're making about 9.4k coins instead, which is a pretty good improvement and use of the ring. This will give you an additional 22k per hour. So not too bad going, and a nice little additional earner, which as an added bonus will level up your smithing, which in the long term, if you're going to stay in free to play for a very long time, is one of the better ways to make good money. The final point I'd like to mention is once you run out of rings of forging, you can go back to methods A or B to either farm gems from the Ogresses or wait till you get them mining and just make gold. Or for non-iron men, you can simply buy more rings of forging from the Grand Exchange and carry on. Obviously, this will result in a lower coins per hour than if you farm the gems yourself. And that just about draws this video to a close. I've been the Lumberjay Knight, and all that's left for me to say is peace out and thanks for watching.